Arab citizens of Israel or Arab population of Israel are non-Jewish Israeli citizens, whose cultural and linguistic heritage or ethnic identity is Arab. The majority of the Arabs in Israel are Muslim but some are Christian or Druze. Many identify as Palestinian and commonly self-designate themselves as Palestinian citizens of Israel. The traditional vernacular of most Arab citizens, irrespective of religion, is the Palestinian dialect of Arabic. Most Arab citizens of Israel are functionally bilingual, the second language being modern Hebrew. By religious affiliation, most are Muslim, particularly of the Sunni branch of Islam. There is a significant Arab Christian minority from various denominations as well as Druze. Among other religious communities, Israeli Mizrahi Jews are not usually considered to form part of this population. According to Israel's Central Bureau of Statistics, the Arab population in 2013 was estimated at 1,658,000, representing 20.7% of the country's population. The majority of these identify themselves as Arab or Palestinian by nationality and Israeli by citizenship. Many have family ties to Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, as well as to Palestinian refugees in Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon. Negev Bedouins and Druze tend to identify more as Israelis than other Arab citizens of Israel. Most of the Arabs living in East Jerusalem and the Golan Heights, occupied by Israel in the Six-Day War of 1967 and later annexed, were offered Israeli citizenship, but most have refused, not wanting to recognize Israel's claim to sovereignty. They became permanent residents instead. They have the right to apply for citizenship, are entitled to municipal services, and have municipal voting rights. Terminology. How to refer to the Arab citizenry of Israel is a highly politicized issue, and there are a number of self-identification labels used by members of this community. Generally speaking, supporters of Israel tend to use Israeli Arab or Arab Israeli to refer to this population without mentioning Palestine, while critics of Israel tend to use Palestinian or Palestinian Arab without referencing Israel. According to the New York Times, most prefer now to identify themselves as Palestinian citizens of Israel rather than as Israeli Arabs. The New York Times uses both Palestinian Israelis and Israeli Arabs to refer to the same population. Common practice in contemporary academic literature is to identify this community as Palestinian, as it is how the majority self-identify. Terms preferred by most Arab citizens to identify themselves include Palestinians, Palestinians in Israel, Israeli Palestinians, the Palestinians of 1948, Palestinian Arabs, Palestinian Arab citizens of Israel, or Palestinian citizens of Israel. There are, however, individuals from among the Arab citizenry who reject the term Palestinian altogether. A minority of Israelis Arab citizens include Israeli in some way in the self-identifying label. The majority identifies Palestinian by nationality and Israeli by citizenship. The Israeli establishment prefers Israeli Arabs or Arabs in Israel, and also uses the terms the minorities, the Arab sector, Arabs of Israel and Arab citizens of Israel. These labels have been criticized for denying this population a political and national identification, obscuring the Palestinian identity and connection to Palestine. The term Israeli Arabs in particular is viewed as a construct of the Israeli authorities. It is nonetheless used by a significant minority of the Arab population, reflecting its dominance in Israeli social discourse. Other terms used to refer to this population include Palestinian Arabs in Israel, Israeli Palestinian Arabs, and the Arabs inside the Green Line. The latter appellation, among others listed above, are not applied to the East Jerusalem Arab population of the Druze in the Golan Heights, as these territories were occupied by Israel in 1967. As the Israel Central Bureau of Statistics defines the area covered in its statistics survey, as including East Jerusalem and the Golan Heights, the number of Arabs in Israel is calculated as just over 20% of the Israeli population. History: 1948 Arab-Israeli War. Most Israelis refer to the 1948 Arab-Israeli War as the War of Independence, while most Arab citizens refer to it as the Nakba, a reflection of differences in perception of the purpose and outcomes of the war. In the aftermath of the 1948 war, British Mandate of Palestine was de facto divided into three parts: the State of Israel, the Jordanian-held West Bank, and the Egyptian-held Gaza Strip. Of the estimated 950,000 Arabs that lived in the territory that became Israel before the war, over 80% fled or were expelled. Benny Morris says, most of Palestine's 700,000 refugees fled their homes because of the flail of war. But it is also true that there were several dozen sites, including Lydda and Ramla, from which Arab communities were expelled by Jewish troops. The other 20%, some 156,000, remained. Arab citizens of Israel today are largely composed of the people who remained and the descendants. Others include some from the Gaza Strip and the West Bank who procured Israeli citizenship under family unification provisions that were recently made significantly more stringent. Arabs who left their homes during the period of armed conflict, but remained in what had become Israeli territory, were considered to be present absentees. In some cases, they were refused permission to return to their homes, which were expropriated and turned over to state ownership, as was the property of other Palestinian refugees. Some 274,000, or 1 of every 4 Arab citizens of Israel, are present absentees, or internally displaced Palestinians. Notable cases of present absentees include the residents of Safariya and the Galilee villages of Arab.The, 1949 to 1966. While most Arabs remaining in Israel were granted citizenship, they were subject to martial law in the early years of the state. Travel permits, curfews, administrative detentions, and expulsions were part of life until 1966. A variety of Israeli legislative measures facilitated the transfer of land abandoned by Arabs to state ownership. These included the Absentee Property Law of 1950, which allowed the state to take control of land belonging to landowners who emigrated to other countries, and the Land Acquisition Law of 1953, which authorized the Ministry of Finance to transfer expropriated land to the state. Other common legal expedients included the use of emergency regulations to declare land belonging to Arab citizens a closed military zone, followed by the use of Ottoman legislation on abandoned land to take control of the land. Arabs that held Israeli citizenship were entitled to vote for the Israeli Knesset. Arabic Knesset members have served in office since the first Knesset. The first Arab Knesset members were Amin Salam Jarjara and Seyf-el-Din El-Zubi, who were members of the Democratic List of Nazareth Party, and Tawfiq Toubi, member of the Maki Party. In 1965, a radical independent Arab group called the Allied, forming the Arab Socialist List, tried to run for Knesset elections. The list was banned by the Israeli Central Elections Committee. In 1966, martial law was lifted completely, and the government set about dismantling most of the discriminatory laws. While Arab citizens were granted the same rights as Jewish citizens under law, 1967 to 2000. After the 1967 Six-Day War, Arab citizens were able to contact Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza Strip for the first time since the establishment of the state. This, along with the lifting of military rule, led to increased political activism among Arab citizens. In 1974, a committee of Arab mayors and municipal councilmen was established, which played an important role in representing the community and pressuring the Israeli government. This was followed in 1975 by the formation of the Committee for the Defense of the Land, which sought to prevent continuing land expropriations. The same year, a political breakthrough took place with the election of Arab poet Tawfiq Ziad, a Maki member, as mayor of Nazareth, accompanied by a strong communist presence in the town council. In 1976, 6 Arab citizens of Israel were killed by Israeli security forces at a protest against land expropriations and house demolitions. The date of the protest, the 30th of March, has since been commemorated annually as Land Day. The 1980s saw the birth of the Islamic movement. As part of a larger trend in the Arab world, the Islamic movement emphasized moving Islam into the political realm. The Islamic movement built schools, provided other essential social services, constructed mosques, and encouraged prayer in conservative Islamic dress. The Islamic movement began to affect electoral politics, particularly at the local level. Many Arab citizens supported the First Intifada and assisted Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza, providing them with money, food, and clothes. A number of strikes were also held by Arab citizens in solidarity with Palestinians in the occupied territories. The years leading up to the Oslo Accords were a time of optimism for Arab citizens. During the administration of Yitzhak Rabin, Arab parties played an important role in the formation of a governing coalition. Increased participation of Arab citizens was also seen at the civil society level. However, tension continued to exist, with many Arabs calling for Israel to become a state of all its citizens, thereby challenging the state's Jewish identity. In the 1999 elections for Prime Minister, 94% of the Arab electorate voted for Ehud Barak. However, Barak formed a broad left-right-center government without consulting the Arab parties, disappointing the Arab community. 2000 present. Tensions between Arabs and the state rose in October 2000 when 12 Arab citizens and 1 man from Gaza were killed while protesting the government's response to the Second Intifada. In response to this incident, the government established the Commission. The events of October 2000 caused many Arabs to question the nature of their Israeli citizenship. To a large extent, they boycotted the 2001 Israeli elections as a means of protest. Ironically, this boycott helped Ariel Sharon defeat Ehud Barak. In 1999 elections, more than 90% of Israel's Arab minority had voted for Ehud Barak. IDF enlistment by Bedouin citizens of Israel dropped significantly. During the 2006 Lebanon War, Arab advocacy organizations complained that the Israeli government had invested time and effort to protect Jewish citizens from Hezbollah attacks, but had neglected Arab citizens. They pointed to a dearth of bomb shelters in Arab towns and villages and a lack of basic emergency information in Arabic. Many Israeli Jews viewed the Arab opposition to government policy and sympathy with the Lebanese as a sign of disloyalty. In October 2006, tensions rose when Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert invited a right-wing political political party Israel.The, to join his coalition government. The party leader, Avigdor advocated an ethnicity-based territory exchange, the Lieberman Plan, by transferring heavily populated Arab areas to Palestinian Authority control and annexing major Jewish Israeli settlement blocks in the West Bank close to the Green Line as part of a peace proposal. Arabs who would prefer to remain in Israel instead of becoming citizens of a Palestinian state would be able to move to Israel. All citizens of Israel, whether Jews or Arabs, would be required to pledge an oath of allegiance to retain citizenship. Those who refuse could remain in Israel as permanent residents. In January 2007, the first non-Druze Arab minister in Israel's history, Arab.The, was appointed minister without portfolio. The appointment was criticized by the left, which felt it was an attempt to cover up the Labour Party's decision to sit with Israel.The in the government, and by the right, who saw it as a threat to Israel's status as a Jewish state. Sectarian and religious groupings. In 2006, the official number of Arab residents in Israel, including East Jerusalem permanent residents, many of whom are not citizens, was 1,413,500 people, about 20% of Israel's population. According to the Israel Central Bureau of Statistics, Muslims, including Bedouins, make up 82% of the entire Arab population in Israel, along with around 9% Druze and 9% Christians. Projections based on 2010 data predicted that Arab Israelis will constitute 25% of Israel's population by 2025. The national language and mother tongue of Arab citizens, including the Druze, is Arabic, and the colloquial spoken languages of the Palestinian Arabic dialect. Knowledge and command of modern Standard Arabic varies. Muslims. Traditionally settled communities of Muslim Arabs comprise about 70% of the Arab population in Israel. In 2010, the average number of children per mother was 3.84, dropping from 3.97 in 2008. The Muslim population is mostly young. 42% of Muslims are under the age of 15. The median age of Muslim Israelis is 18, while the median age of Jewish Israelis is 30. The percentage of people over 65 is less than 3% for Muslims, compared with 12% for the Jewish population. Bedouin. According to the Foreign Affairs Minister of Israel, 110,000 Bedouins live in the Negev, 50,000 in the Galilee, and 10,000 in the central region of Israel. Prior to the establishment of Israel in 1948, there were an estimated 65,000–90,000 Bedouin living in the Negev. The 11,000 who remained were relocated by the Israeli government in the 1950s and 1960s to an area in the northeastern Negev comprising 10% of the Negev Desert. The Israeli government built 7 development towns for the Bedouin between 1979 and 1982. Around half the Bedouin population live in these towns, the largest of which is the city of Rahat, others being Arar and Naqab, Bir Hadar, Shura, Qusayfa, Lakia, Shakib al-Salam and Tel Asabi. Approximately 40% to 50% of Bedouin citizens of Israel live in 39 to 45 unrecognized villages that are not connected to the electrical grid and water mains. Druze. Most Israeli Druze live in the north of the country and enjoy a separate status from Arabs. The Galilean Druze and Druze of the Haifa region received Israeli citizenship automatically in 1948. The Druze of the Golan Heights, captured in 1967 from Syria and annexed to Israel in 1981, are considered permanent residents under the Golan Heights law. The majority turned down full Israeli citizenship in favor of retaining Syrian citizenship and identity. During the British Mandate for Palestine, The Druze did not embrace the rising Arab nationalism of the time or participate in violent confrontations. In 1948, many Druze volunteered for the Israeli army and no Druze villages were destroyed or permanently abandoned. Since the establishment of the state, the Druze have demonstrated solidarity with Israel and distanced themselves from Arab and Islamic radicalism. It is in keeping with Druze religious theology to serve the country in which they live. The Druze are conscripted into the Israel Defense Forces. From 1957, the Israeli government formally recognized the Druze as an independent religious community. The Druze are defined as a distinct ethnic group in the Israeli Ministry of Interior census registration. While the Israeli education system is basically divided into Hebrew and Arabic-speaking schools, the Druze have autonomy within the Arabic-speaking branch. Compared to other Arab citizens of Israel, Druze place less emphasis on Arab identity and self-identify more as Israeli. Most do not identify as Palestinians. Druze politicians in Israel include Ayub Kara, who represented Likud in their Knesset, Majali Wahabi of Kadima, the deputy speaker of the Knesset, and Said Nafar of the Arab party Balad. Christian Arabs comprise about 9% of the Arab population in Israel. Approximately 70% reside in the north, in Jish, Laban, Kafr Yusuf, Kafr Kana, Ibil and Shefa Amra. Some Druze villages such as Herfish and Maga have small Christian Arab populations. Nazareth has the largest Christian Arab population. The near entirety of Haifa's Arab minority is Christian as well. There are 117,000 or more Christian Arabs in Israel. Many Christian Arabs have been prominent in Arab political parties in Israel, and leaders have included Archbishop George Hakim, Emil Toma, Tawfiq Toubi, Emil Habibi, and Azmi Bashir. Notable Christian religious figures include the Melkite archbishops of the Galilee Elias Chakor and Botris Mulam, the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem Michel Saba, and Bishop Munib Yunan of the Lutheran Church of Jordan and the Holy Land. Israeli Supreme Court Judge Salam Jobran is a Christian Arab. Since September 2014, Christian families or clans who can speak the Aramaic language are eligible to register as Arameans in Israel. This recognition comes after about 7 years of activity by the Aramean Christian Foundation in Israel, which rather than sticking to an Arab identity, wishes to assimilate into an Israeli lifestyle. Aram is led by IDF Major Shadi Khalil Risho and the Israeli Christian Recruitment Forum, headed by Father Gabriel Nadaf of the Greek Orthodox Church and Major Ihab Shleyan. The move was condemned by the Greek Orthodox Patriarchate, which described it as an attempt to divide the Palestinian minority in Israel. Christian Arabs are one of the most educated groups in Israel. Maariv has described the Christian Arab sectors as the most successful in the education system. Since Christian Arabs fared the best in terms of education in comparison to any other group receiving an education in Israel, Christian Arabs have one of the highest rates of success in the matriculation examinations, both in comparison to the Muslims and the Druze and in comparison to all students in the Jewish education system as a group. Although lower than the secular Jewish education and the national religious Jewish education, Arab Christians were also the vanguard in terms of eligibility for higher education, and have attained bachelor's degrees and academic degrees more often than the median Israeli population. The rate of students studying in the field of medicine was also higher among Christian Arab students, compared with all the students from other sectors. The percentage of Arab Christian women who are higher education students is higher than other sectors too. In 2014, the percentage of Arab Christian out of the total Israeli university students was 17%. 9.0% and 14.4% of the total Israeli college students, even though they only take up around 1% of the total population of Israel. In terms of the socio-economic situation, Arab Christians are more similar to the Jewish population than to the Muslim Arab population. They have the lowest incidence of poverty and the lowest percentage of unemployment, which is 4.9% compared to 6.5% among Jewish and to 9.2% among Muslim men and women. They have also the highest median household income among Arab citizens of Israel and second highest median household income among the Israeli ethno-religious groups. Arab Christians have a high presentation in science and in the white-collar professions. In Israel, Arab Christians are portrayed as a hard-working and upper-middle-class educated ethno-religious minority. According to Study of Christian Arabs, the New Israeli Jews. Reflections on the educational level of Arab Christians in Israel by Hannah David from the University of Tel Aviv. One of the factors is why Arab Christians are the most educated subpopulation in Israel is the high-level Christian educational institutions. Christian schools in Israel are among the best schools in the country, while those schools represent only 4% of the Arab schooling sector. About 34% of Arab university students come from Christian schools, and about 87% of the Israeli Arabs in the high-tech sector have been educated in the Christian schools. Self-identification. The relationship of Arab citizens to the State of Israel is often fraught with tension and can be regarded in the context of relations between minority populations and state authorities elsewhere in the world. Arab citizens consider themselves to be an indigenous people. The tension between the Palestinian Arab national identity and their identity as citizens of Israel was famously described by an Arab public figure as, "My state is at war with my nation." Between 1948 and 1967, very few Arab citizens of Israel identified openly as Palestinian and an Israeli Arab identity. The preferred phrase of the Israeli establishment and public was predominant public expressions of Palestinian identity, such as displays of the Palestinian flag and the singing and reciting of nationalist songs or poetry were illegal until recently. With the end of military administrative rule in 1966 and following the 1967 war, national consciousness and its expression among Israelis' Arab citizens has spread. An increasing majority self-identifies Palestinian, preferring this descriptor to Israeli Arab in numerous surveys over the years. Arabs living in East Jerusalem, occupied and administered by Israel since the Six-Day War of 1967, are a special case. Although they hold Israeli ID cards, most are permanent residents since few accepted Israel's offer of citizenship after the war's end, refusing to recognize its sovereignty, and most maintain close ties with the West Bank. As permanent residents, they are eligible to vote in Jerusalem's municipal elections, although only a small percentage takes advantage of this right. The remaining Druze population of the Golan Heights, occupied and administered by Israel in 1967, are considered permanent residents under the Golan Heights Law of 1981. Few have accepted full Israeli citizenship and the vast majority consider themselves citizens of Syria.